these guys look like trouble. I knew it. These guys want to take me out. Damn. I knew I made the wrong move there. Alright. Let's fucking take him out now. Alright, there they are. Hey! Yeah, that's right. He's back.
Has been neutralized. Rogue agent down.
Oh shit. Come on. Come on. Come on. Just cover. I'm almost dead. That's funny. It says that I'm the law up on the right corner. That's right. I am the law. By the time this video is uploaded, a new patch for The Division is out to fix a few major issues with the game. One of them being is going rogue and surviving it is now more rewarding than it used to be. Before this patch, going rogue wasn't something that was practically considered by players. Matter of fact, it was the thought of going rogue that scared the shit out of players, since no one wants to lose their loot or dark zone keys. But it's not only the small amount of reward and the high amount of risk that made players stop going rogue frequently. Players stopped considering going rogue because, and I think I'm speaking for the majority of players here, it's really fucking unnecessary. Although, now with the new patch, I noticed an increase of players going rogue, which tells me that players are getting more comfortable going rogue. Now of course, the patch addressed other aspects of the game, which if I got more into, I'll just end up hogging the whole video with patch notes and changes. So I just thought to mention this one since I think it's what the majority of players wanted fixed. The thing is, with games that are MMOs, you'd always expect constant support from the developers, since if they don't, these games would become repetitive and boring. That's why most MMOs that have been developed stay for a very long time. Things are not very different with The Division, so I thought of making this video to highlight a few problems with the game and also address the changes that took place pre, during, and post-production. So let's talk about the difference between the game we got and the E3 2013 and 2014 gameplay video. Here lies the E3 2013 version of The Division. This is actually what someone wrote in the comments of the official E3 2013 gameplay video of The Division. They either write that or RIP Tom Clancy's The Division E3 2013. Now, I know a lot of people are mad of the changes that happened between the E3 2013 build of the game and the current build. And you should be. A lot of things that players, including me, were hoping for because of that build, we didn't get. So, if I'm gonna address those changes, I gotta put them on structured points. Those points are story, graphics, mechanics, map, and setting of the game. First off, let's talk about the story. I fucking hated this game's story. I hated the plot, I hated the narrative, I hated that it was put out of context and barely attached itself to the background and build-up that Massive and Ubisoft were putting on their ad videos. However, my hate can't really be directed at the final build because, honestly, that was how the story was gonna be all along. The reason I'm saying this is because if you looked at the E3 2013 and 2014 gameplay videos, you can tell that at first they played the police precinct mission, and then at E3 2014 video, they unlocked the base of operation. To me, it just feels like from these videos, there already was a narrative and a plot that has been set out. Although, I can agree that changes have been made to the approach of these missions and the way you play through them. As the final build, you don't enter the police precinct from the main door, and the objectives of both the E3 and final build of both missions were certainly different from each other. They really need to fix this, and the only way they can really do so is by putting things back in track in DLCs. You know, bringing it back to the virus and how it started, and also making a more personal story and not just the way that they made the story now, where it's more of a job that you have to do, and it doesn't really connect with your character or what he was before. Because I personally hoped for a more character and player driven story, creating a special bond between you and your character. I also hoped for a more personalized story, where every player's experience with the game would be different. Kinda like The Witcher 3 and the way that game lets us approach its story, where everyone can have their own playthrough of the missions and their own ending based on their choices and the order of missions they chose to play in. I actually wanted to go a bit more extreme than that, but that would just hog up the whole video, and so check out this video and the link up on the left corner to see a more in-depth discussion on what I hoped from The Division. But still, the story was set out to be what it is in the final build from the beginning, so there isn't really any noticeable difference between the build of the game at E3 and the current build. Still, that doesn't mean that the story is actually good, I'm just saying it's been bad from the beginning. And this moves us to the second point, and that is graphics. Downgrade or not? Now that's the real question. Truth is, the game was downgraded, but not as badly as how people seem to imply to each other. So let me give you the full picture and address those so-called downgrades that people have been noticing. Here's a look of the game at E3 2013. Now here's a look of the game at E3 2014. Now here's a look at the current build of the game on Ultra. You can notice a few changes that happened to the game, which some of you will call downgrades, but to me, it really looks more of an attempt to try and cover up a few things or trying to fit a certain theme, which is really fancy words for saying that the game didn't run so well on this build, and so they decided to lower the fidelity of the textures for a few parts of the game, or they just thought that the game looked much better like how it did now and it fit their creative vision for this game, or something like that. To be honest, I think it's a mix of both. The reason I say this is because of the changes I noticed. Look at the shade tech light on the shoulder of the E3 2013 and 2014 agent, and now look at the current one. You can tell that the final build light resembles the game's intro credit scene when you started. I'm talking about the scene where the shade tech would appear and then transform to a Ubisoft logo. Still, this is a really far-fetched guess and very hard to link both and say that's the reason why they changed it, because character detail was also downgraded. I said this before and I'm gonna say it again. In the E3 gameplay video, whether it was 2013 or 2014, the character detail was so realistic you could almost see the pores of their skin. I also love the slim version of the shade tech light, and I think you probably did too. It just looked much better and much cleaner. Also, the character detail is very much worse than how it looked at E3. However, I have to defend this game's environmental detail, as the environmental detail in terms of graphics and density is amazing, and really shows that Massive has worked really hard to keep everything just like how it looked at E3, but had to sacrifice a few things in order for the game to run smoothly. Reflection detail is sharp. You can look at a puddle and it accurately reflects whatever is opposite. There is a noticeable reflection lag whether you're trying to look at a puddle or a mirror or a window or whatever, but only if you're moving really fast. Same thing with skyscrapers and their windows, but since skyscrapers have a bigger reflection, it doesn't really matter if it lags a little bit. You can't really notice it because you're not really looking at skyscrapers all the time, but it's still there, and if you want to just check it out, you can actually notice that it's lagging a little bit. Also, the universal lighting is on point. Now, some of you guys might call this global illumination. The reason I'm saying this is because if you saw the tech demo for Snowdrop, which is the game engine that was used to develop this game, you can see that they've used reflection balls, or spheres, again, technical term, to accurately reflect light rays, no matter wherever it was coming from. Now, there are a few spots where you can notice that it's not working, but those are very hard to find spots and usually is a result of not noticing it while developing. The reason I mentioned these graphical aspects of the game because these are the things that I'm sure you guys would have noticed and caught your attention. However, I do feel like the game is a little bit gray. What I mean is, the E3 gameplay videos had somewhat of a color filter enabled in its world. To me, it just looked like the lows were moved toward the blue and the mids were moved towards the green, giving it a little bit of a cold, grim, and cinematic look to the video. I also noticed that the saturation was turned really high with colors almost popping out of the screen, and the game's gamma was turned down just a little bit so that the game doesn't look oversaturated. I don't want to go into full detail, but I felt that the E3 gameplay video that whatever that needed to be bright was actually bright, and whatever that was dark was actually dark, and whatever was colorful was actually colorful, and whatever was dull was dull. Now, everything looks gray. I don't know if that's just me, but everything looks gray. Another thing I want to address in the graphics, and this includes the character fidelity as well, is that the characters feel somewhat smaller than how they looked at the E3 gameplay videos. I don't know if that's just me, but the characters look like midgets compared to the E3 demo videos. I don't know whether Massive changed the field of view in the final build, but I really wish that the characters looked like how they looked at E3. And I know this might sound silly, but it's just a matter of perspective. I can notice that the characters are actually somewhat smaller than how they looked at E3. And that's it. So, two things needs to be fixed in graphics. The E3 character models brought back to the final build we got, and that includes of course the shade tech light, the texture fidelity, and the size of the characters. And the second thing is the E3 color tint brought back as well. Now, like I said, this might just be a matter of perspective, whether players can notice it or not, so yeah. And now we move on to the third point, and that is mechanics. I don't really have anything against the mechanics of the game. In fact, what I should be doing is praising the game's mechanics even more. Everything's done so perfectly well with the mechanics of The Division. Animations, the cover system, almost everything was kept to look like how it looked at E3, and I love the fact that it didn't compromise any of the animations or effects that the game had at the E3 demo. Although, I might have one or two problems with the mechanics of the game. First is the character stance in the model. It just annoys me that I have to be in the combat stance all the fucking time, every time I'm in the dark zone. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you implement that? I know that the dark zone is supposed to be this treacherous, scary place, but it doesn't make any sense that I have to walk that way in the dark zone all the time I'm in there. I know it's a little bit silly to be pissed at this, but I'm just like you. I do care about their little changes. So hopefully they'll fix this at some point. I mean, at E3 2013, they were walking normally while roaming around in the dark zone in Brooklyn. Now granted, Brooklyn is only available temporarily and it's not part of the dark zone in the final build, but the players in the video who were controlling the characters were moving normally. So, yeah. If you could, I'm not saying that you should, but if you could, please do fix this issue. The other issue, and this is not something to compare with the E3 gameplay demos, but I thought they were important enough to mention now. I mean, this video is titled Fixes to be Done for The Division. And this problem is the loadout system with this game. This is more of a balancing issue, and so I'll try to keep this one short. This game's leveling caps out at level 30, and that's when you reach the end game and start gaining high-end gear. Not in the Dark Zone though. Players can keep leveling up to I think level 99. This makes the game highly unbalanced as the weapons and armor and almost every gear you own comes in the form of DPS, health, and skill power, meaning that players might have the same level, but one might have better gear than the other. Now that's highly unlikely, but it happened more than once to a lot of players. Here's my loadout as of the shooting of this video. Now I'd say my loadout is fairly decent and can put out some damage, and can also withstand damage from other players. But there are moments where a player will one-shot headshot me like it's nobody's fucking business. And of course, he'd be a level 30 player, but in the Dark Zone, he'd be like a level 70, which means he probably has a way higher DPS and health than mine. As I said, this doesn't happen often, but it's definitely something that pisses me the fuck off when it happens, and Massive really need to fix the balancing of this game. And this moves us to the fourth point, and that is the map of the game. Now that's something that I'd say has been very controversial with this game, even more so than the supposed graphical downgrades. Here's a look at the E3 2013 map, or the supposed one that was shown off at the end of the trailer, and here's a look at the map we got. Now looking at both, you can tell that the E3 map is definitely bigger, as it had more areas to explore in New York, but to me, it's not the size that annoyed me, but more in terms of the amount of both maps were actually part of the Dark Zone. Now the final build's map is fairly big. I'd say it's almost the size of Liberty City from Grand Theft Auto 4. But it's not the size that mattered, like I said, it's how much of the map is part of the Dark Zone. In the final build, the Dark Zone is in the middle of the map, while at E3, it's in 3 different areas. I really wish that we had access to all 3 parts of the Dark Zone that was presumably planned with this game before they changed it to what we got. I don't really care if they had to put them in a loading screen or decrease the size of the map in order to fit all the now canned areas, but I really wish they did add them with the full game. Like I said, it's not about the size since the map is fairly big, and since the only means of transportation in the game is walking or you could fast travel to certain points, it makes the final build map big enough. But for the sake of people who want to explore more and wants to see more of the desolated post-apocalyptic world, or just want to have more places to loot from in the Dark Zone, like me, please do add those back into the game, if you could. Thanks. Another issue is the fact that even the map of Manhattan has been changed from the first time it was shown off at E3 2014. First of all, you see this clip right here from the E3 2014 demo video? Yeah, all that doesn't exist anymore. That's what got me thinking. I tried checking what else have been changed, looking at clips of the E3 2013 and 2014 demo videos, and trying to match the places that was shown off. The 2014 video was easy to match since it was shot beside the base of operation, and this clip right here where the agents emerge from the subway tunnel, yeah, it's blocked. It's not there anymore. And you can also notice changes in the aesthetics of the game. First of all, like I said, the color tint is not the same. You can tell that the current build is more vanilla and it's more sort of normal, I guess, or gray. That's the word I chose before. I'm gonna stick by it. But at the E3 gameplay videos, you can tell it's more of a it's more colder. It's more like it's waking up at dawn in a really cold day. Another thing that's been changed is the street itself. Some cars has been changed and they shifted their places from where they were before. And also the base of operations itself was changed. I mean, now we have to go through this decontamination unit, while at the E3 2014 video you can tell that first of all there were banners at the base of operations stating that this was the base of operations, this was a medical wing, this was a tech wing, and so on. But also you can tell that the entrance to the base of operations was way higher. You have to go up the stairs before you can actually enter the base of operations. The E3 2013 video was harder to track as I needed to know more where I was heading towards to, and where was the E3 video was actually shot. But once I found the street, it's still not the same as well. You can notice a minor change. Like I said, they've shifted a few vehicles here and there. They've changed the color tone, and yeah, it's still not the same as how it looked at E3. So as you can see, you can tell that the map had a few corners that have been cut. That's all the same with the other aspects of the game. You can tell that a few things have been cut in terms of graphics, in terms of story, in terms of mechanics, and the ironic thing is the things that Massive cut off the game are the problems that needs to be fixed with the current build. A lot of people are complaining about the graphics, a lot of people complaining about the balancing issues, a lot of people are complaining about the map not being what they expected or hoped for to be, so yeah. And this moves us to the final point, and that is the setting of this game. I want to talk about the setting of the game, but actually I inadvertently talked about the setting of the game when I discussed the story not matching the tone of the game, nor the background, and when I talked about the color filter / tint, and when I discussed the map size being shed. All these three aspects of the game are very important in setting this game. When we saw the E3 2013 gameplay video for the first time, we probably noticed different things in the game, but what I'm certain that we all noticed and saw is how the game looked so gritty and cold and just deadly. We also saw a compelling story of 3 agents, which was in reality the adventures of 3 real players playing in the world of The Division. Kinda like how we see the adventures of Frankie on PC in 1080p as he roamed around the world of Daisy and Arma. We saw a vast world with endless possibilities, but the game we got just ended up being a trimmed down vast world with expected probabilities. Everyone knows how to take out that elite NPC, and in every mission there is always a glitch that helps player chances and making the game easy, and even if there was none of that, the game just becomes a hard grind to get loot that you don't know where to use. If we're gonna use them on the same enemies that were just killed in the same mission, then why not use the gun that we already have? Oh, now you can kill them faster. That's why. Ah, yeah, that sounds about right. That's a logical reason. The game just becomes a matter of checkpoints with no narrative holding things together. The game's development just feels like a painting that has been drawn by 3 different painters. Everyone had his opinion, and you can tell that there was a creative dispute on how the game should look and play. But the game is fun for the most part, and holds its own. But there are moments where I play the same mission 4 times in a row to get the amount of Phoenix credits that I want. And when I'm done, I just sit still telling myself, I've just wasted 3 hours grinding through a pointless mission. Why?
I'm just finishing up here. I'll be right over.
The game just loses control of itself. It leaves everything up to the player, and you'd think that'd be fun, telling yourself, yeah, that choice is for the players now, bitches. But that's the wrong way to do it, as it just means, here's an open city, go kill the same player over and over and over and over and over again, until you're bored, basically. And then take a break, and then do it over and over and over and over, and you get my point. It's just that the repetitiveness is what ruins this game. The truth is, if it was up to me, I'd add a PvP game mode, a real PvP mode with 2 teams, or even free for all. At least it has an objective. I'd definitely fix the DPS system and try to balance the game's Dark Zone by matchmaking players based on their Dark Zone level and not based on our PvE level. I'd also remove that fucking stupid combat stance whenever I enter the Dark Zone. I'd add objectives or tasks in the Dark Zone to drive players to work together or against each other in the Dark Zone, like a supply drop filled with superior, that is purple, or high end, which is golden, gear. I'd bring back the E3 character models, and also, and again, this is a matter of perspective, I'd add that same color tint that we saw, or at least I saw, at E3. So, Massive, if my demands are not met, I'm gonna kill my hostage. Yeah, if I didn't tell you, by the way, I have a hostage with me. His name is, hold on, let me see if I can spell this out. Eves, wives. Fuck it. I can't spell him. It's this guy, who just happens to be the CEO of Ubisoft. Truth is, even if I actually had him as hostage and actually killed him, they'll just replace him with another French prick and call it a day. Oh, and I'd probably stop making videos. Not that I want to, but you know, lethal injection and all. And that's it, guys. If you enjoyed my video, then give me the likes and leave in the comments. And if you dislike my video, then I really don't give a fuck about the dislikes. Yeah, I know. I'm a French prick too. Subscribe to my channel so you can help me to get to 1,000 subscribers. That's my goal in life. So sad. And also, share my videos to your friends and relatives because sharing my videos will get my channel noticed. This was MZ101. And guys, see you later. Next time.